Hey guys, it's Merrick here again, bringing you another Game and Chat video. So, I've been wanting to discuss for a couple of days now what my dream game would be. Or I should say, my dream game in the Fallout series. I'm a big fan of Fallout, and I do know that Fallout, especially like a lot of the modern games, has got a lot of mixed opinions and everything like that. I'm very modular with my thoughts on stuff. Like I can easily accept like when a game changes something and able to play it and everything like that. But even with that sort of thing, you get ideas that you want to see play out because there's a lot of great things in Fallout that I would love to see return, or just be expanded upon and be made even cooler. So my idea for my dream Fallout game would be going back to Colorado and sort of making a sequel to Fallout Tactics. The idea being that it would go back, it would bring it into this dimension. Like this sort of like third dimension instead of being like isometric and having like, full on like action combat and everything like that. That's the biggest thing. In terms of gameplay, Fallout should never go back to like the isometric view. The melee weapons were like ridiculous. It's just an evolution. Everything. It's just my personal opinion too on the matter. But case in point, though, right now, I would love to see a return because I love the Midwestern Brotherhood of Steel. They are the best version of the Brotherhood of Steel in my opinion, and having another game featuring them would be amazing. So, my dream Fallout game, as I said, would take us back to Colorado as a sort of sequel to Fallout Tactics. And in this sequel to Fallout Tactics, you play as a paladin or a knight, any sort of like member, any type of member of like the Brotherhood of Steel, like the Midwestern, and you're full on the honor system with them and everything like that. You're like you're your standard paladin or like knight or whatever, and you get betrayed by one of the senior members. Let's say if you're a knight, then he'd probably be a paladin. Let's just call him what's a good name? How about let's call him Rance. So Rance is an example. Defames you. You are on a mission and you find out that he's doing some skeevy shit, and thusly he betrays you and defames you. So you're left out in the wasteland alone, and you basically got to work yourself back up to the top from there. Either working with the Midwestern Brotherhood, getting back to your rank, exposing rants, and doing all sorts of stuff, or deal with other factions that turn up around post-apocalyptic Colorado. Of course, when I talk about factions, we got to bring in some really good ones. So, I got a couple ideas. Of course, there's going to be the followers of the apocalypse because they're kind of everywhere for the most part. Hell, maybe you can bring some of the railroad in, getting synths out of the Commonwealth. Well, what remaining synths would there be? Then again, their kind of thing would be disillusioned, but you never know. Whatever the case may be, their whole sort of thing would probably be dissolved, or they could be getting people out of the Commonwealth and over into Colorado, synths and everything like that, in order to keep like what remnants of the Institute might be still around from trying to get them. Big faction I bring back for this game would be the NCR. Licking their wounds and running away with the tail between their legs from when the fucking courier kicked their asses out of Vegas. Straight up, there's going to be a faction war. Because in Tactics, the Brotherhood of Steel in the region of Colorado are fucking kings. They're the leaders and shit like that. They are the ruling class. So, they're like, yeah, fuck this shit. And the whole idea being that the fucking NCR are losing a war they were not prepared to fight against. Let me put it to you like this, right? The only reason why the NCR won their war against the fucking regular Brotherhood of Steel in Vegas, literally because those guys are kind of chumps. The Brotherhood in Vegas are kind of like pussies. They like hiding, and they only do their job of collecting shit. the fucking Brotherhood in the Midwest go out of their way to like take over places and kind of rule through fear in a way, but showing off like, look at all of our amazing equipment and everything like that. And that's the whole idea. You sense the raw power of this Brotherhood of Steel. You see how, like, you know, cool they are and everything like that, and you want to work your way back to being on their side. And that's the whole idea. Since you're disgraced and defamed, the Brotherhood are out for your ass in the game. They want you dead. So you got powerful enemies from the start, and you have a choice here. You got to choose between, like, you have a choice here. You could work with them, or sort of like we're gonna do like a whole redo of the faction system from New Vegas and make it better. What I'm gonna say is, this game would have factions where you have to decide. There's like 2 layers. There's the personal layer, which is basically just like, you know, town, like between town to town basis when you're helping, like, maybe you're helping like tribal camps or everything like that. And then there's like the major factions like NCR, Brotherhood, and everything like that. So the idea being that you can be an asshole to towns while still being, like, you know, on good terms with stuff like the NCR or the Brotherhood of Steel, with what little room that they have. Now, going forward into this game, the biggest thing, we're gonna have a couple of M. Night Shyamalama Bing Bong twists, and this will play into the faction system. So, what I propose would happen is, midway through the game, kind of like Fallout 4, you see something along the horizon. What the hell is it? It's the fucking Prydwen. The Prydwen's flying over Colorado. What the hell is this? Out steps Paladin Danse. Or should I say, Elder Danse. Now, Danse takes over the Eastern Brotherhood and leads them into a sort of new age, kind of similar to Elder Lions, but maybe a little bit different. They're a lot, you know, they're still a little bit on the, you know, kill the muties to keep people safe and everything like that, rather than, like, you know, bringing in, like, non-feral ghouls and super mutants that are willing to help out in order to sort of, you know, deal with this shit. In order to, like, you know, bring up the ranks of the Brotherhood. So they kind of step in, and they're all like, yeah, like, oh, you know, they try to reach out, they try to extend a hand in friendship to the Midwest, and the Midwest just like, dude, you do know that, like, if we have mutants and shit on our side, we got, like, this, you know, there's a whole sort of power conflict, like, you know, we're the real Brotherhood here. You guys are nothing. And this is where we kind of find out that the Circle of Steel / like the classic Brotherhood of Steel basically gave the middle finger to the Midwest as well, and don't send them any reinforcements, which kind of always was the case back in fucking Tactics, where they really didn't have any help from them. That they kind of took, you know, in initiates all the time from the local groups, and or, you know, taking ghouls, super mutants, everything like that in order to stop the menace, as well as repurpose robots from the calculator, which I'll talk about in a little bit more. So they come in and they're all like, yeah, no, yeah, go fuck yourself. And now there's a fucking faction war between 2 sects of the Brotherhood. But now here's where Rance's story comes in as well. Rance, who is the dissenter, is secretly working for the Circle of Steel. He wants them to take over again, because he doesn't like this whole idea. He just wants, like, the Brotherhood to be like, yeah, you fuck. Yeah. He's a I guess a classical Brotherhood guy. He's just like, yeah, we should be hiding in the bunkers and only fucking going out to take technology and hiding it from people because, you know, we're the Brotherhood. That's because we're badass, etc., etc. Even though something like that really doesn't make them badass. So he's trying to get this whole sort of thing going on. Now, midway through the plot, you get to midway through, like, the full-on plot, when everything's all set up and you're finally able to confront Rance and everything like that. You have a choice of either A, siding with Rance, or B, killing him. Which, you know, obviously, you get robbed of the satisfaction of killing him, but he takes you under his wing and he gets you working for the Circle of Steel, which brings in a whole nother sort of conflict here. So the Circle of Steel, they're all just like, a bunch of assholes. They're like, yeah, you guys got to get back to, you guys got to get back to work and gathering technology. We may have lost you, but now, we're back and we want you back and everything like that. And we'll send you reinforcements, blah, blah, blah. And they're getting involved in the conflict. Which brings in a third sect of the Brotherhood of Steel that is out for blood, basically, for both of the Eastern and the Midwestern Brotherhood. And now you could also, like I said, you could also work with the NCR if you really want them to take over, but who really wants the NCR to take over, am I right? So, you have that choice. You have those choices of who you want to work with. Oh, and if anybody asks, where's Caesar's Legion? Fucking bombed to shit. They're gone. Caesar's Legion's dead. The end. Jokes aside, though, the whole idea being that there's a big conflict shift in the Brotherhood, and we finally able to see that on screen. And when it all is said and done, you have a choice of who you want to work for, who you want to take over, and everything like that. Now, here's where this whole sort of idea comes to the faction system. This is what I didn't like about New Vegas when it came to the faction system. You are a peon. You're a little errand boy. You're just a tiny shithead. But you could basically have a choice of planning out you just taking over with the independent Vegas thing, which I always kind of say is kind of the canon one, because fuck it. Every bullshit thing you go through, you deserve to rule Vegas after the end of that game. But what I'm getting at here is, imagine if you could become the president of the NCR after a coup or something like that, right? Imagine if you could become the leader of Caesar's Legion. Become the Courier's Legion. What if you became the leader of the Brotherhood? Or, the mayor of a town, like, by maybe killing off Trudy or someone like that, you become the mayor of Goodsprings, I guess. This is how this plays out with the faction system. So you can start out as a little shithead doing, like, all the little, like, busy work. But because you're a fucking hardened Brotherhood of Steel member, you kick ass and take names. If you want to start a coup in your faction, you can. And you can take over, and now you're the leader. You call the shots. You tell them what you got to do. And the rewards for the faction system would be better than they were. Such as, like, oh, you helped this township out, or you helped this tribal group out. So during the final confrontation, they send in their troops or whatever. They send in like a battalion of their type of warrior or troop, whatever the hell it is, to help fight for you if you want to go like a sort of independent route or whatever. Or they help the side that you're fighting for. Which, convincing people to bring in the NCR, that'd be an interesting idea. Like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Maybe kicking tribals off their land to give the NCR more ground, etc., that whole sort of thing. You see where this is going, right? The conflicts are the major thing here. And instead of there being a final boss, I want the idea that this conflict is like the true sort of like battle here. There doesn't need to be a final boss. Like, you could it could be interchanged, etc., You could fight like a giant army of like classic Brotherhood soldiers, or like, soldiers from the NCR or whatever the fuck. Maybe a general or two. I don't know. The final boss can be interchangeable between this sort of, but the idea behind it is that the real villain is the conflict. Like this clash of ideas. Like, oh, what's better for the wasteland? What's better for this? What's better for the Midwest and everything like that? And that's where the sort of ending comes in. You choose, it takes over, and there you go. That's your ending. And you're able to explore the wasteland afterwards and do all sorts of cool shit, just like Fallout 3 and 4. So, how would the gameplay work on from this being there? Well, the faction system and everything like that. Well, we can rework building up settlements in Fallout 4, where you don't have as many of them as you would in Fallout 4, but the idea being that, like, you have to restore destroyed towns and shit like that, maybe. Like, building up the economy over there by building up markets and everything like that. Bringing in defenses and all sorts of other shit. and this would be your sort of way of, like, you know, helping people out, etc., etc. There wouldn't be, I'd say, maybe about, like, a decent number, I'd say maybe about, like, 12 settlements that you can build in the whole game. You would need to do this for, like I said, quests, or if you want to do it on your own, you can. Like, just turn something into an outpost and say, fuck it, you don't gotta help these people out. You can. Or, you know, turn it into your own personal little haven where you can, like, I guess, murder your citizens or whatever. Make yourself, like I said, make yourself the mayor of a town. Which you could kind of already do in Fallout 4, but, you know, make it feel a little more impactful when it comes to that sort of thing. Like, instead of it being in the player's mind that, yeah, look at how cool your settlement is, show it off. You know, show it off that your settlement is what's yours, rather than it being like, oh, yeah, look how cool I made this place. You know, I'm such a cool guy. Show it off. Make the player, you know, show off that the player's, like, settlement matters and everything like that. Don't, like, keep, like, you know, it's ingrained in the mind, but make it feel right to them too. So here's where it would also come into play, the settlement building. So we're going to talk about vehicles, right? In Fallout Tactics, right, the Midwestern Brotherhood has vehicles. They have legit operating vehicles and everything like that, which I fucking enjoy. Like tanks, APCs, Apaches, all this other shit, right? Bring those back. Bring back drivable vehicles. Make drivable vehicles the first thing in a 3D Fallout. That would be, right out the gate, amazing. I think a lot of people would praise that shit. And it would make traversing an area like post-apocalyptic Colorado even more cooler. Because, just think about it. Imagine driving around on a flatbed truck carrying, like, you know, your customized power armor in the back or whatever. You stop the truck, you get out, you hop in your power armor, booyah, it's game time. Same thing goes. How about instead of a flatbed, how about a fucking semi truck, right? Going around, like, semi 18 wheel fucking truck. Going around with like 12 things of power armor in your back. Or hey, how about instead of that, you have not just your settlement, but your player home with a bunch of turrets and shit on the back. Make yourself a gun truck. And have it run off of, like, energy ammo. Or, since you're really out for fuel. Or, hell, make it steam-powered. Look for shit like that. That'd be awesome. Like, there was, like, a working car in Fallout 2, from what I remember. And that was one of the coolest things. You get a vehicle in a Fallout game, and then in Tactics, like I said, once again, you get a fucking vehicle. You can make, like, you get, like, cars, you get, like, tanks, and, hell, have it play into the battles between, like, the NCR. Like, the NCR, they only have, like, trucks and shit. You got trucks, they got vertibirds or whatever, but then you got the fucking Midwestern Brotherhood. The Midwestern Brotherhood, they got tanks, APCs, as I said before, and, like, fucking attack helicopters like that. The fucking NCR are shit. Like, like I said, show off this raw strength that they have. Hell, even in the end of Tactics, it's implied that they obtained a really cool, unique sort of, like, flying machine. It's called, like, the Helios or something like that, which is really cool. And have this sort of thing play out. Now, since I talked about power armor and settlement building and shit like that going around, how about we do a sort of combination of power armor here? So I wasn't a big fan of the armor system, like the regular standard armor system in Fallout 4. I like the idea, but in execution, it's kind of dumb. So what I propose is, you make a, like, if you want combat armor, right? If you gather all the pieces together, boom, you can sort of, like, hotkey it into one sort of big power armor selector. One sort of big, like, armor selector. Like, okay, you have all these pieces of combat armor, just click one button, boom, it's all on you. Get this sort of thing, click it up, boom, it's on you. Now, here's where I'm talking about with the power armor system. So, there's two types of power armor. There's the classic style power armor, which is just clothing. And then there's the sort of tier 2 power armor. And how this will work with the Midwestern Brotherhood power armor. The tier 1s are for, like, the standard soldiers, right? They have, like, all the little bells and whistles, the chain around the shoulder, carrying around, like, you know, their whatever. And they got, like, the cool horned helmet. Tier 2 is the ones that need the fusion cores. Those guys are, like, the elite soldiers. They go around the big fucking shit, you know, carrying around the super big guns. Fighting with plasma casters and all sorts of shit. Like, you know what I'm saying. and they need fusion cores and everything like that in order to beat everything. So from there, as we move on, we get like all sorts of stuff. And now bring in Dance's Brotherhood. They only carry around like the big power armor, the T60, that all shit. And then the Circle of Steel, they come in with the T51B, the 2 tiers. You got the old style and the new style. And it brings in, also I should say, T45D, which I think could also be implemented as like both styles, because yeah, the T45 was like same sort of way in Fallout 3 and whatnot. Plus the T45 we can also see it in Fallout 4, same sort of way, big or classic style, as they should go. So that would be the change of the power armor system / armor system, where you just select your armor that you want, you get all the pieces, one hotkey, boom, it's all on you, rather than having to like select and basically become like a hodgepodge, which you can still do if you like. That's what I want to do. I want to keep it so that people can play it as they see it, as like Fallout 4. Like you can have a hodgepodge of armors. Make like one of your settlers like look like I don't know, Mr. Patchwork with all of his fucking armor and everything like that. So he, you come in, you're just like, yeah, look at me, I got my cool Midwestern power armor, and you got Mr. Patchwork coming over the hill with his fucking machine gun, shit like that. So, moving on, one thing that needs to be in this game, a lot more mutants than what we already have in Fallout 4. Fallout 3, I feel, set a standard for mutants. I just want to talk about like the enemies for a second, though, going from Fallout 1 to Fallout 3. So Fallout 1 had a decent selection. There's a lot of just giant insects, rabid dogs, etc., super mutants and all that good shit. But then moving on to Fallout 2, we got more interesting things. We got like Wanamingos, we got a lot more Deathclaws, and like other cool things like spore plants and whatnot. Like they're a great sort of addition to the cast of enemy creatures that you can encounter. Fallout 3 took away some of them, but I'd still say it was like a decent cast of monsters that you could fight, as well as other enemies. And then moving on to Fallout 4 and New Vegas, I feel like those games cut back, as well as with New Vegas's idea of removing random encounter spawns and leaving enemies in like general areas, which I didn't really like. So how I would propose this, right? We bring back a shit ton of fucking mutants for Fallout, for this Fallout game. I'm talking Wanamingos, like there's all sorts of shit in Colorado, all sorts of military bases, like stuff could have survived there. Bringing back the Wanamingos, bringing the hairy Deathclaws into 3D, full-on 3D, in like a big environment like this. The intelligent talking ones. We need the Beast Lords back. We need all sorts of cool shit. Just bring it all back. And, for example, as I was talking about before when I said Rance, how about you could betray Rance in a few different ways? Imagine having to track him down, like he ran away for whatever reason. You track him down and you're just like, oh, hey, buddy, how's it going? And, you get a chance here. You can either kill him yourself for the honor, he takes you under his wing, or how about this? He's hiding in a place with a lot of, like, hungry monsters in a pit or something like that. Imagine pushing him in, leaving him to die at the hands of some horrible mutant creature. And which brings me on to my next point. Since we're not going to probably have like a boss fight, like a final boss fight, make it so that there are unique creatures everywhere. We need cool monsters and everything like that, and unique creatures are the best way of doing this. As in Fallout Tactics, we had a creature named Roachor, which was a giant rad roach that mutated due to consumption of a special type of chemical in fission batteries. How about you go back to said fission battery factory in this game, right? And you could find a unique gigantic rad roach named, I don't know, Son of Roachor or whatever, or Roachor Jr. To do something like with a Godzilla-esque name or King Kong-esque name. New Vegas had this sort of cool idea with this, legendary creatures. But instead of just calling them the legendary whatever, give them names. Like, I don't know, have like a fucking giant, alpha Deathclaw named like, Claws or some shit like that, or that's a shitty name, but Give them like cool names. Don't just name them the legendary Deathclaw, the legendary Yao Guai, etc., etc. Like, you can, the world's your oyster when it comes to this sort of thing. And then make them feel like boss fights. Make them feel like a great challenge you need to overcome. Like, an example being, how about you have, like, a giant ant queen. But this one is, like, different from the other ant queens you've seen in, like, Fallout 3 or New Vegas, where she's not very mobile. Her abdomen, her egg-laying abdomen is fucking huge. And you gotta, like, take her out and her eggs out and shit like that in order to get to her. And she keeps spawning out, like, grubs or whatever the hell. And that's the whole challenge of just getting to her to take her down. So moving on from there, with, like, all sorts of mutants. Like, bring back, like, the cool robots from the Calculator. Like, make a whole faction that's the remnants of the Calculator and everything like that, right? Like, all of their like, remnants of armies. Like, behemoth robots stalking, like, crazy behemoth robots stalking areas of the wasteland. Humanoid combat robots going around, like, fucking shit up, etc., etc. Not all in the name of the Calculator, just have them be, like, rogue. Like, they lost the signal of the Calculator and they're just going apeshit. Because I believe that was also part of the ending, where the robot menace is kind of, like, still around, despite them, like, taking out the Calculator and everything like that. Which, once again, would show off the dangers of the place. Like, this wasteland is not your average wasteland. There's, like, roving gangs of robots that are out to kill shit. And they're not just roving gangs, they got, like, fucking huge things backing them up and everything like that. And, have super mutants be more, willing to join the Brotherhood in order to, like, fight back against the robot menace. Have a sort of thing. And, like, have the robots be, like, a minor threat. Like, there's something a little less to worry about than, like, the Circle of Steel or the Eastern Brotherhood coming in and being like, hey, we're the top dogs on campus now, etc., etc. And since we move on from there, since we bring back all sorts of other mutants from past games, like Wanamingos and whatnot, let's bring back... We need to talk about what we're going to be using to fight these sons of bitches. Bring back almost every weapon from every past Fallout game. I'm talking hunting rifles, 32 pistols, 38 pipe pistols, all sorts of other shit. Combat rifles, R91 assault rifles, Chinese assault rifles, light machine guns, heavy machine guns. Add new weapons. Bring back the flamer pistol from Tactics. Bring back, bring in, like, heavy duty caliber fucking machine guns, 88mm cannons, all sorts of fucking shit that you could use to fight back against these horrible monsters and crazy factions in this wasteland. We need this shit to survive, and it would make making your characters feel much more thing as we get to choose what we really want to use as we go forward and everything like that. This is a big thing too. Talking about leveling up and all sorts of shit, right? When you level up in Fallout 4, I don't like how you could basically level up into infinity and then have the game basically end when the game finally crashes at level, like, 600 or 6,000, whatever. What I'm talking about here is have a set level up. Let's make it level 100, right? And this will give you the chance of building up the character you want. Make the character creation and, like, customization and everything like that as in-depth as Fallout New Vegas, while keeping it as simple and easy to get into as Fallout 4. I know it's a hard bargain in trying to get that sort of shit done, but when you can get it in this sort of light, right? If you get it just right, nobody will feel alienated. No one will feel like options don't matter. Everything like, it'll keep optimal solutions from, it'll keep optimal solutions locked behind simple things. Like, an example being the speech stat. Make it broken. Make the speech stat still broken. But have ways of keeping it from being, like, stopping every little fucking thing. I for one still find it funny that speech is a broken stat no matter what, along with charisma. But even so, make the optimal solutions for using speech not so optimal. Like, have the consequences of maybe talking about something like, instead of, let's say, a raider gang attacking you, let's say have a raider gang attack, like, a small camp of tribal somewhere. bring in the fucking, like, bring in the sort of, like, fucking charm of a crazy guy. Like, maybe you could convince, like, a group of ruffians to rob, like, a homeless person instead of robbing you, making them think, like, oh yeah, he's secretly a rich guy or something like that. It'll make your character grow in a sort of way, and make this, let's just call him a knight. Make the knight a blank slate in terms of, like, what he can possibly become, but keep it so that he's sort of within the rank of a knight. Like, you can make him honorable, you can make him dishonorable. Give him, like, make it so that he's easily able to go into any sort of character build. Like, hell, even make him a jack of all trades, master of none, and it could still work and everything like that. It's all up to the player to decide on what they want to make here. It's all up to the player to decide on what they want to make for him. That's what I mean. And modular stuff would work. The only downside I could say to this whole idea is that weaponry and stuff like that, you can't exactly bring back all the weaponry from classic Fallout games. Like, you can't, like, they'd have to pay, like, royalties to Heckler and Koch and all sorts of other gun people and everything like that. But even so, that's where mods come in. And this is where the biggest thing comes in. I don't know how all of these things could continue to work, but one major thing needs to stand, and this is great for Fallout 4, and what I think should be in this game too. The game needs to be modular. It needs to be easily moddable and everything like that in order for, like, the community experience to go great. And get rid of Creation Club. I'm sorry. It's a straight up first things first. Get rid of fucking Creation Club. Now, but I'll talk about that in a few seconds here. But this is what I mean. Make it modular so that the community can easily get behind it, making mods and everything like that. So if you really want your Heckler and Koch MP5, like I probably do, put it in, have someone mod it, and there you go. Instantly go in there. Make a modders resource, like, out immediately. Like, once the game's, like, obviously patched and everything like that, and or any DLC is released, boom, it could work off from there. Make your dreams go wild with the game. And, the community would go fucking gaga over it and everything like that. It'd be awesome. So, moving on to what I mean by, like, getting rid of Creation Club. Yeah, it's quite obvious. As much as I like some of the content the Creation Club has, it's really cool and shit like that, I don't think it's worth the money. Like, especially because you're paying, like, random amounts of dollars for random amounts of, like, Creation Club points, and stuff feels like it's worth less than what you paid for it, or worth more than what you paid for it, or whatever the hell. Creation Club was a decent idea on paper, but I don't think it works out in the end, is the thing. So, like I said, just get rid of it. Nobody's gonna miss it. I sure as hell wouldn't miss it. And plus, it'll take down that file size a lot. So this Dream Fallout game has nothing related to the Creation Club in it. Or hell, bring the Creation Club objects into the game for free, and pay the people who made them money. That'll work. And in all honesty, this goes on to my biggest thing. Freeing Bethesda from ZeniMax would be a godsend in this sort of situation. This would allow a game like this to flourish with all the cool creative ideas without having to worry about shit like shareholders breathing down the necks of, like, the people who created the game. And I know, like I said, this is all a pipe dream idea. This is a dream game concept. And, of course, a lot of dream games are all going to be, like, sort of pipe dream and whatnot. You want all the good shit in it, none of the bad. And there's always going to be a little bit of the bad with the good and all this other shit. But that's the charm of talking about your dream games. You want to see stuff succeed. You want to see the good come out and everything like that. You don't want to, like, play shit or play, like, a decent experience that's kind of, like, bogged down by minor troubles or other things like that. But, as I said, going forward, as I said, this is going to be a pipe dream, and we're probably never going to see the lights of this game. But if we do manage to see a game like this, I will be extremely happy. Or hell, maybe somehow if I could mod a game and make it completely like that. There's probably, like, some unknown mods out there, but who knows. But, as I said, this is all it is. But, like, But like I said earlier, guys, tell me what you think in the comments. Tell me what you think about my game idea. Share your dream game ideas. I want to know yours. I want to have a conversation about this topic. Because dream games, I feel, are important. It allows us to show what we want to see in our favorite games, in our favorite game series and whatnot. And it lets us sort of express this idea in a cool, creative way. Like, you want to see, like, hell, someone else might want to see, like, a fucking giant Godzilla monster or whatever, and that'd be awesome, too. And, like I said, going forward, discussing these ideas are only going to help because it generates sort of feedback. Someone on the dev team or something will stumble upon this, be like, hey, that's a good idea. And, they'll try to make it a reality. You never know. Like, you see, they read the comments, they'll be like, oh, this guy's got a nice idea. Oh, this person's got a cool idea, too. And, they could probably, write up a concept, or maybe make, like, a whole sort of thing, and that's the whole thing. Or, hell, maybe an indie dev will get an idea, or someone who wants to get into indie game development will get an idea. And they can make their own game with the same sort of concepts. That would be fucking awesome. Like I said, it's the spreading of ideas and stuff that matters. So yeah, guys, as I said before, share what you got in the comment section. Let's have a good discussion out there. This is Merrick signing out. As of tonight, we'll be streaming some Castlevania Lords of Shadow, and I'll see everybody later. Merrick out. Peace.